Hi, welcome back to Anthologie Quilt. Today we are going to be making 9-patch blocks. So basic, simple sewing. The 9-patch blocks end up in 3 different places on the quilt. So they end up on the side of the inspiration collage. There's 2 loose blocks that end up with a Dresden block on in each of the diagonals. And then there's 1 row of the 3, and that's at the very top of the quilt. So let's get to it. A 9-patch is an opportunity for me just to mix a whole bunch of fabrics. I do have a few things I like to think about, which is the scale of the fabric and the making sure that I get a busy print with a blender print. 2 things I'm always thinking about. So I know that I have pulled way too many fabrics out for Anthologie, but like I said, I really like the scrappy aesthetic. It's out of the line of the camera, but my collage has mostly golds, yellows, oranges. It had that 1 stalk of green. I'm not sure if you remember it. Let me put a quick snippet of it in the camera. So it has that green running. So I've got to incorporate green into this quilt so that doesn't end up not matching. I always say that if you put 1 color in, it always needs a friend. I'm gonna make sure that I use this print in my 9-patch blocks. And now I'm just gonna dig until I find something that I like. Pretty sure I want those birds. And my quilt is gonna have a lot of gold because that's how I roll. But after that, it's really just play. I don't like the way that looks with the gold. And I've already got a green. So I'm just kind of playing. Oh, I like that. Maybe. So a few things that I like to think about when it comes to fabrics and putting blocks like 9-patch together is if I have a busy print, I like to pair it with a blender. So I would probably never put these 2 together. For one, they don't really match, but also they've got the same scale. So one of the fabrics can't shine. They're both trying to shine. But if I put like, this is a very busy print, and if I put it with this blender, then it really makes this pop. And then this kind of is the backup, but the backup is needed. So that's the way I always try to pick out fabrics. So I really like these. So I think each of these fabrics looks good with each other. So I compare, like for example, I compare these 2 together and it looks good. I compare these 2 together, it looks good. Good. Pretty good. I really like that. Let me get them cut. Also, if you want to dig through your 2.5-inch square box of scraps and then be super scrappy, you can do that too. So always definitely do your own thing. All right, so now I'm gonna get these paired up. So there's 9 blocks, and each of the blocks has 4 of one fabric, 4 of another, and then 1 of one fabric. So I'm gonna just break these up into 4s. I'm gonna break up my 9 blocks. I also want to make sure that I don't have any blocks that look exactly the same, with the exception of those 2 blocks that are going over there in that Dresden block. So those 2 I want to be the same. You don't have to follow suit, but I want those to be the exactly the same, but I don't want any of my other blocks to be exactly the same. One thing I like to do is go ahead and lay everything out before I take it to my machine, and then I always chain piece. So I'm just gonna get everything really laid out real quick, and I'll show you when I'm done. So I got my stacks. One more thing before I forget. I have alternated which fabrics were in the corner versus the ones in the middle. And I know I have several repeats, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, every time I use this fabric, it wasn't on the corners. That way I won't have to worry about any of my blocks having the same fabrics on the corner end up together, just to give it a little bit more randomness. So I like to stack them up this way, in case you're wondering, because I'm gonna take my whole mat over there to my sewing machine, and I'm gonna get all this chain pieced. I've got all of my rows sewn together, and I'm just gonna start alternating the seams and pressing them. Gonna go take this stack and chain piece them, and then I'll press them, and then I'll add this back on. And I like to set my seams, but I want to make sure I don't get these out of order, so that's why I'm doing bottom first. I'm just going to, I like to press all my cross seams open. We'll get this row on there, and then I'll do that for all of these. All right, final sewing on these individual blocks anyway. I'm gonna go sew them, be right back. All sewn up, and now we just go through that motion of setting our seams, and I'll press that cross seam open on this one too. I'm liking the way they're looking. I'm just gonna throw some starch on there because I love starch and I love crisp blocks, so I always give all blocks starch. All right, so they're all pressed. And they're all so colorful and scrappy. I just love them. Now we have to get them sewn into those sections of them. And then, you know, 2 of the blocks are loose. So these are my 2 loose blocks, and they're gonna be going in the middle of the quilt. So I'm just gonna set those to the side, and then I'm gonna get these into some order. So those are the 2 that I set aside. And then we've got this row of 3, and then we got this column of 4. I think this is gonna be my column, and then these are gonna be my 3. And so they have a lot of similarities, so I just tried to mix them up to where I didn't end up with anything touching each other, because that would really bother me. We're gonna get these into sets, and then we'll start section building. All right, all sewn. They're so pretty. I'm gonna press all these cross seams open and get everything crisp and flat. Okay. All right, so like I mentioned before, these 2 I'm setting aside, and then this one with the 3 I'm gonna set aside as well. This guy's gonna go on the side. Inspiration collage. Gonna go like this. And I know that this is the very middle, so I like to pin right here first, and then pin my ends down. So one more stitch and we'll be done with this section. Final seam sewn. I'm just gonna press to set it. And this one has a lot of seams in it. So being off on your 1/4 inch seam, even a little, can add up. And then we're just gonna press these to one side. And I'm just gonna throw a little starch. All right. Oh, it's gonna be pretty. And that's gonna wrap up this week. So I'll see you next time.